Okay, let's go.
Hello there, Chick Chatters. We're back with Teen Mom episode 8. And we're going to just kick things right off with Maci, the most interesting one in the room. So Maci's whole story is that she's got a job offer to be a girls wrestling coach. And she's so excited about it at first, but then she lives life a little bit for these next couple days and realizes that it's just going to be time taken away from her kids. And this is the time to focus on her kids when they're so little like this. And then she's got all the time in the world to coach after this. So after a little tiff with Taylor when he's trying to tell her a story.
Which was so dumb. What a dumb argument.
It was dumb, but you could just tell looking at Maci, she was exhausted. This girl looked like she was barely keeping her eyes open. And
I think if there wasn't a camera right in front of them, she would have just walked away from that man, let him talk to himself.
She wanted to. He started talking. She's like, can you just not? And he's like, what?
He's like, not tell the story or not talk. She didn't even want to say what she felt.
She meant not talk. She's like, it's just exhausting. The whole day is exhausting. And I'm like, yeah, girl, you do not need to be taking this job or even teasing us that you're going to be taking this job. You're running around with these kids. You're already coaching one of them. It's a lot. And apparently this job would keep her away till like 8:30 at night. And it's like, I don't know what.
It sounds like it's like a 1 to 8 situation or noon to 8 situation. So that's not going to work to have kids like that. It is flattering. It reminds me too, even
you say it was flattering?
For her, yeah. She is, yeah, no, not for me.
Like, no one gave you a compliment.
No, not for me. I don't wrestle. Flattering for her. I feel bad for her because it kind of reminds me, even as an adult who has a lot of resources and plans to have children someday, that just because you wait for the perfect time and whatever doesn't mean that it doesn't still affect your life in the way that you have to make sacrifices for your kids all the time. If you want to have a child, you have to make sure that their life is the best that it can be and that they're well taken care of. And so I really respect Maci for this because I know she wants to do this. And I do think Taylor would help her make this work and they could make it work. But she doesn't want to make it work. She wants to be there with her kids for all of these experiences and not be exhausted and drained.
Her relationship with Taylor seems a little bit rocky right now anyways. It seems like they really need more one-on-one time than her and being a coach and all that. So I think she made the right choice at the end of the day. This opportunity will come back up for her. She's made a name for herself. I'm sure that the community already knows they can get a hold of her. If I was her, I'd be like, listen, get a hold of me in like 5-6 years. And then I'll be here.
But she's going to continue to be involved in her children's sport. So it's not like she's just going to drop off the face of the planet and not be employable for a job like that.
And she has like that weird podcast, I think, still. I'm not even sure. But I don't know what Taylor really does other than his TTM stuff. But I mean, I'm sure he does something. And it's a lot to put on Taylor to lug these kids around and do everything. And then that's another strain on him, another strain on their marriage. So I think it was the right move for her not to do it. I did think it was funny that she ordered a beer the first moment she could because she's so synonymous with beer drinking and all that.
She was just in her confessional talking about how stressed she is and worried about making this decision, and then the very next thing is, I'll take a Bud Light.
I mean, most people when they stressed out, that's what they want is a beverage. But it's just funny that she only ever orders beer. I never see this girl order mimosa. I never see her order like anything.
No, her and Taylor both drink beer. So I just looked up quick out of curiosity what Taylor does, and it says that he is the co-owner of their clothing line. That's it. But before that, he was a motocross racer, professional.
It's giving
giving Ryan Rebound.
It is very much giving Ryan Rebound, but it's definitely like Josh Rodeo Man meets Sean. We don't know what he does all the time. Does I still be wearing that clothing line all the time to try to get y'all to buy it? So.
I mean, let's be real. None of these men really do much, right? Zach knows what he does? Question mark. Tyler. Question mark. Like,
I mean, Corey goes on the challenge and does reality TV, but other than that, question mark.
Question mark.
This August, Ozempic Joe Man, question mark. Gary used to sell condoms. Now he grows vegetables, question mark. Like, so I don't know.
What do these people do for work? They just don't work. They still just make money off this stupid show.
Well, it won't be for long.
And endorsements and brand deals. I mean, Kate and Ty, we know what Ty does. That ain't no question mark.
Actually, yeah, we do know what Ty does now. And that's pretty much what Kate does too.
Anyway, so Maci has her beer, talks to her mom about it, brings up the whole thing with her kids, and her mom tends to agree that this is the time for her to be around with her kids. So it seems like with her mom agreeing with that idea, that sort of sealed the deal for her.
Right.
To me, it seemed like she made her decision right there.
You can't get those years back, so I commend her on that. She's definitely doing much better than Amber, so.
Totally.
And who we got a break from this episode, by the way.
Which I needed. She makes my blood pressure go up.
You know what, though? I was hoping to see the aftermath of this damn boys trip, but we didn't even get that, so you know what? Whatever. Anyways, moving on from one unproblematic person to the next, we got Jade, who has seriously no problems this season other than Chloe's school situation.
Oh, what good for her.
For once.
She needs an empty, boring season.
Yeah, and this is it. So her and Sean
they even showed some flashbacks of her and Sean this episode, and seeing Sean 3 seasons ago, that man was sick. He was ill. He looked horrid.
He did.
Horrid.
And that was when he wasn't going back to work, and he was just putting in 2-week notices to not show up the next day and all types of stuff. They are taking Chloe to her first day at this new school, and they're also talking about Sean having no, I don't know, career goals at the moment, but trying to get him some. So yep. I think they went to lunch or something while they took Chloe to school, and Jade was like, hey, why don't you get into, what is it?
Home inspections, which is funny because when you buy a home, typically you get it inspected. Some people will waive their inspection as a way to get a leg up if it's competitive, but typically you want to get a home inspection before you make this giant ass purchase of a home. And it's funny because she says at the end, after he actually lines up for that, she's like, oh, we're going to be like a power couple, because if you're selling a home, it's nice to have a couple of home inspectors that you know that you can refer people to, because it is something that has to happen quickly or it can get in the way of the buying process and you could lose out on the house. So I think it's funny that she's pushing him in this direction because this is her new business venture in real estate. And so now she's trying to get him involved in this, which is great. I think it is a great path for him. It seems like you gotta know a lot about a lot of things to do that, but whatever.
He's willing to take the classes, and I guess he's got some type of experience in construction. It's better than him sitting at home playing video games, so I'm all for him doing this with her. I think that's partially why she even suggested it, though, is so he could work with her.
So she can still...
More managing of Sean.
She's still going to refer him every single job he has. So she's still just going to boss him around, which I think that is their dynamic. And this is maybe a healthier way for them to explore that dynamic with each other, for her to be the boss. But I still just find it very interesting that the single job that Jade is just like, oh, why don't you do this? And he's just like, okay, I'll do this. And I just want to see him have a thought, just a single thought that's his own. I mean, I guess it was being a DJ, and let's be real, like, that's not going to work. But
yeah, let's just say Sean doesn't have the best thoughts on his own, but you know what?
Jade does a good job of helping him with those, and I love Sean now. He's a great guy. He's a great dad. Watching him get emotional when they picked Chloe up from school, he must have been so stressed in his heart for what's going on, and he's been homeschooling her, so he's probably been overwhelmed, and he probably really wants things to work out because he knows this homeschooling thing's not going to work out forever with him and her. So it was nice to see him just so invested.
Yeah. Chloe was really cute in this episode too, answering all them questions like, oh, my second recess is the best recess. She was so excited for that. And I think too, when you find out your kid has been bullied and stuff like that, it just puts a different kind of strain on your heart. Like, it just makes you feel really, really bad. And I think him hearing that she made all these new friends, he's like, oh my God. He's like crying. And then this little Chloe's like, can I just eat?
No, she's like, leave me alone. You brought me a snack so I could eat it. And I please have it.
Just eat while you guys are crying about me. And Jade, I think, started tearing up just because she saw Sean tearing up. I'm very much like that. Like, I don't think Jade was super emotional in that moment, but she saw Sean tearing up. And you don't see Sean tearing up super often. It was just really nice to see that little moment there. He was so proud of Chloe, and he was so happy that she was making all these friends and that he didn't have to homeschool her anymore. He was like, oh, thank God.
Right. Right, I know. And then in the same episode, he ends up signing up for home
Mhm.
inspection school and all of that. It seems like it's a 60-hour kind of course, and then he has to pass
Yeah.
an exam. But this is probably Jade's best episode ever. I really say hats off to Jade. It is boring as hell to watch, but I could not be happier to see this happening to her right
Right.
now. She knows.
Child's doing well. Her husband's doing something other than playing video games and homeschooling. And you know what?
Mhm,
He's already a million miles ahead of Zach. He didn't come up with the job on his own, but at least he's
mhm.
going to go for it and try it and go to school and do the damn thing. And it's way further than Zach did. All Zach had to do was look up, I want to be a firefighter. And Cheyenne was like, okay, maybe I'll have another baby. Absolutely no standard there.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, he didn't even really have to buy in or comply at all with that request, which is
I
a
don't
reasonable
even
request to have a
That's the
job.
thing. I don't even think he really sat there and researched it. I think he just pulled up the computer page when she walked in. He was probably looking
I
up something else.
I think he typed in Google list of jobs.
Yep. What are some good jobs? I don't even know if they're good paying.
You can make a living as a firefighter, but you have to work a lot of overtime and stuff for that to happen. I don't think Cheyenne actually wants Zach out there being a firefighter. Not only is it dangerous going into a fire, but you're exposed to all kinds of carcinogens and cancerous
Yeah.
things and explosions and crazy people. And oh no.
I don't know, but this ain't Cheyenne's segment. But we are about to get into her actually, so I guess might as well.
Her segment is a little bit heavier, but I think also hopeful because I mean they
Yeah.
end on a good note. But she is talking with her friend.
She's wearing a whole tracksuit, and her friend comes in all made up and stuff, and they're like, "Well, you look cute," and she's like, well, you look cute too." Girl, she does look cute, but she is wearing a whole sweatsuit that I would be wearing. It definitely is.
Right. Well, and I think when you know that you're about to be on your friend's television show, you're gonna dress up
Yeah,
a little bit. And when you're on this television show that you've been on for 5 years, then you're gonna wear a cute
whatever.
tracksuit. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they both look good, but she told her friend about what happened with Ryder in the last episode with, the horrible incident of being called the derogatory name. And she is trying to figure out where to go from there because everybody in this situation has been through something different, right? Corey and Zach were both raised by white moms, so they have a different experience than Cheyenne had, who was raised by two black parents. And then Taylor has absolutely almost probably no experience in talking through these kinds of things. So,
In
yeah, I
fact,
mean,
she's in the past, I mean, she's apologized and I know she's grown from it, but she's posted derogatory things herself online.
well,
So
so is Cheyenne. Like, we can't forget
exactly.
that too. So,
You're
yeah,
right. And so has Cheyenne. So everyone really is coming from just drastically different perspectives. And how cool is it to see them all sit down for this
yeah,
thing?
of course. Whenever there's a problem, Cheyenne finds an organization for it, and they're all gonna sit together and have a chat with that. But I thought it was interesting the little talk she had with Corey, where she asked Corey, "What did you deal with? What did you go through?" And he said, "Honestly, I kind of internalized it because what was I
Yeah.
gonna do? Ask my white mother for help?" He's like, "That was something that my father should have really helped me with." And I think that that was a really cool moment just for her to get that other perspective of like, okay, even
Mhm.
though Corey is half
Mhm.
black, he doesn't even have the same experience that Cheyenne does. It is
That was
really
like a really important reality, I think, too, for
Mhm.
everyone to see that there's some people like Corey who he's a black man in America, which is a thing. And he
Mhm.
doesn't have guidance as to how to be that.
Yeah.
It made me feel really sad for him.
Yeah. A lot of my cousins have gone through a similar situation because they all have white moms and not, a
Yeah.
lot of their dads have not been around. So they've had to learn from our family how to deal with those situations. And honestly, my family might not be dealing with them situations very well. So it's something that they kind of struggle through as well. I think a lot of mixed kids deal with that kind of struggle. And it is good to see them all come together over it. I think Cheyenne was worried at first that Taylor might not feel comfortable about showing up. I mean, that's kind of like the hints I was getting. She was worried more
Mhm.
about, I think, how Taylor might react to some of this, but Taylor was very open, very on board. It sounds like when she found out what happened to Ryder, she wanted to learn herself how to handle the situation because it
As
upset her.
any caring person would, like,
Mhm,
cares for a child that is going through something like that. I think
mhm.
that, if anything, at that moment, it makes things very real as to what's right and wrong. But again, I think Taylor grew a long time ago from what she had said. And I thought it was a really good idea for Cheyenne to reach out to an outside organization. I know in the past she's also reached out to Color of Change, specifically when she had that conversation with Mackenzie that ended up going left and having all those problems. I think it was a good thing for her just to have a neutral party that can educate all of them, regardless of their perspective, because
Mhm.
they're all just sitting down at the table talking. I'm sure they can come up with a good solution with all four of their minds. I think they're very capable of that, but they all will come from their own perspective. So I think it's good that they just had an expert to normalize. Not that we want to normalize that this happens, but it does happen. And so everyone needs to take a deep breath
Mhm.
and be there for their daughter and make
Right.
good choices, not freak out.
I think their biggest concern was just making sure it stayed age appropriate. And I think the lady had really good things to say to all of them. Even Taylor's like, I don't know how to approach this being a white woman. And she said, you just tell her. I can't really understand, but
Right.
I empathize with you. You're going to have to do a lot of self-reflection and stuff. And I thought her advice was really good. I thought this lady was solid and I loved her book idea. And Corey, the second she said a book, you could see it on his face. He's like, oh, that's it. That's it. We're going to be
Probably
getting
just
this.
needs a plan. Even like when he was on Teen Mom Family Vacation in his individual therapy session, as soon as he kind of got the dots connected, he was like stood up. He was walking around. Like he's the kind of guy where once he gets it and he feels like he can handle it, he's ready to go. He's in
Yeah.
action mode now.
I'm sure him and Cheyenne were both on Amazon the moment that phone call ended ordering books.
Cheyenne ordered one book. I'm telling you right now, Corey probably has a library of books. Not saying that one is worse than the other, but yeah, Corey was just like, yes, that's a great idea. Okay, let's do it. Like,
He said, once I heard book, I knew that's it. That's it.
the solution. And it's a great solution because especially like we're saying like appropriate things, it's so uncomfortable to sit down with a kid that age and talk to them about the horrible things that happen in the world.
Yeah.
And then they don't need to be burdened with all of that information just because something happened to them one time. So it's important for them to start to develop a narrative in their head, just like this woman said, of resilience and representation and empowerment and just being who you are, regardless of what happens to you or the experiences you have. Yeah, I thought that these were all fantastic conversations and recommendations.
Their co-parenting situation is truly inspirational, and I am glad, even for this reason alone, that MTV follows them. Because she's not a teen mom, but I think their co-parenting situation, it's chef's kiss, and it's always been. So moving on, we're going to get into Delusional, and she's still in Vegas with her Ozempic Joe, man, sir, whatever.
They went on this weird helicopter ride together for no reason whatsoever. Was that supposed to be a date or something?
I think it might have been. I don't know. I have no idea what's going on between her and Ozempic Joe, but
Yeah, it's like, are they dating? Are they not dating? They have absolutely no chemistry with each
no,
other.
negative.
Ozempic Joe doesn't even open his eyes when he speaks to her.
It must be giving her Kiefer vibes. Remember when he used to always be like this?
So true. You know, Kiefer just had a baby.
He had a baby.
He had a
Congrats.
baby.
Kiefer. Congrats. Precious baby.
He had a baby. Like last
White
week.
baby.
He did.
I wonder if Janelle's over somewhere punching the air right now because she couldn't give Kiefer that beautiful white baby. Whatever. It's good to see that Kiefer's doing well after his, METH lab exploded.
Yeah.
Janelle and Ozempic Joe are talking about this place she went to go see. They only showed like a small clip of her even walking into this house. We just saw a big living room and she's like, perfect. It's perfect.
This is great. Yeah. Well, first she wanted to a house that didn't have 2 stories, and then she wanted 2 stories, and then she was like immediately on board. I was thinking too, because it really was this much of a slice of a clip. And I'm like, they probably spent all damn day filming that just to get a 5-second clip with music in the background of her just like, okay.
Yeah.
That's
There's
all
always
I saw.
space for my kids. And I'm like, yeah, girl, there's always space in the empty homes when you're looking at them. Like, wait till you fill that thing
Especially
with
like
furniture.
this home looks pretty big. I'm wondering where this money coming from.
Her OnlyFans, she's probably hoping she's getting more money than she's probably going to get from her sale of her house. She's still got a whole David to figure out. I don't know where this money came from, but this girl signed a lease and stuff like in the moment. She already got a key and everything. I was like, how long was this Vegas trip? How long has Jace been home with these kids?
I know that they do kind of mess up the timelines a lot on Teen Mom, but it looked like she signed on the rental before she even officially had the restraining order in place, which would have been the only way that she would have been able to take the kids and leave out of state. So what happens if it was denied?
Honestly, that might have even been just bad MTV editing. I would hope that she did not just sign a lease before even knowing if she could take these kids with her. But
She talked to her lawyer in between, and her lawyer seems to indicate he wasn't worried about getting this restraining order, but you never know what a judge is going to do.
I mean, they have been dealing with Swamp Man David for a while, so maybe that's why they're all pretty confident. This man of all men is
Pretty well
definitely
documented that this guy is dangerous and violent and undateable.
Yeah, if you do not give a restraining order to somebody for David Eason, I think that the justice system has failed you completely. I think that'd be grounds to sue. So I would be pretty confident too. So I'm not even going to dog her for that, but I do think that it was interesting that this whole damn time we have not even seen her in North Carolina once yet. We're on episode 8 and we've seen her in about 3 episodes now. And every single damn episode, she's either in Vegas or in Florida. And I'm like, yeah, kids. I know you probably can't film with some of them, but like, still, at least show us you twerking in the woods or something like you normally be doing when you're out in North Carolina.
Well, she does end up back in North Carolina for a brief moment. And we saw Kaiser for a sliver of a second. Just a sliver. I don't know what he was eating, but he didn't look like he was enjoying it. So that was just kind of the strangest sliver of a second we could ever be shown. This poor kid, I feel like the last time I saw him, he was screaming, "Feed me," in a diaper outside. And now he's got half of a like pepper outside of his mouth, can't even chew it. Why are they doing this to this child?
He's not properly fed. You know what? I think David was the main cook in that house, actually. I'm not even going to lie to you because anytime that I've seen David post stuff when he was with Janelle, it was usually food and everything. So I think he was the one that was usually cooking. So
now Kaiser's eating Janelle's food and he's spitting it out.
Never mind. Don't feed me. Horrible. But we saw Kaiser for literally a second. And then we did learn that Jace does know about the restraining order with David. I'm pretty sure he would anyways because he's got his own, I think. I guess Janelle says that he's the only one that knows. I mean, Ensley, she's just still too young to really know what's going on. It's not really age appropriate for her to know. You can mention it to Kaiser, but I'm sure he kind of gets the gist of what's going on anyways. With David not being around, he's probably just happy that he's not around. He's not even going to mention his name because if he mentions his name, he might come back, and we don't want that.
I know. So true.
Poor Kaiser.
Yeah, restraining order is granted, and it's for 6 months, and it is for all the kids as well. So that would include Ensley. So that does give her permission to take David's child out of the state and go move there for at least 6 months. I don't know how long her lease is, and I think you can always get your restraining order extended if needed. I don't know how many times, but
if I were her, I would go right now. I mean, that's probably why she got that key anyways. But you know what? I do gotta say before we move on from Janelle, whoever she sells this house to, she's gonna have to put a disclaimer. There is a swamp man living on the property,
and he ain't never gonna leave.
He ain't never gonna leave.
He's a sovereign citizen of this swamp.
And he could take out your animals. So beware. He is living on a boat on a swamp. He somehow really has a truck, a white truck that she's been looking for, which I get that. If I know what someone drives, like an X or something like that, like I'll be like, oh my God. Anytime I see that vehicle, I'm like ducking. Yep. Even in Texas.
I can relate to that too because I worry currently about a black truck and I look out for a black truck and a specific person in a black truck. You know how common black trucks are? You know how common white trucks are? Mm-hmm. It's very scary.
I'm in Texas and sometimes I'm looking at cars and I'm like, oh my God, is that? And I'm like, you're not even in this state. From one paranoid girl to another, we got Leah. This episode really revolves around Addie. I was heartbroken for Addie hearing that she wants to go to Corey's house just to see how the girls interact with their dad.
When Leah asked her, like, why do you want to go there? And she was like, I just want to see what it's like.
This poor girl. When you think about it too, yeah, the girls go see Corey every other week. And they have things that they do with Corey. Corey's a very involved parent. He has been since day one. So it's probably so weird and probably pretty difficult for Leah because you got one absentee kind of father and then you have a very involved father. And it's like, how do you balance that? I mean, it'd be one thing if they were both absentee, like with Janelle's kids, all of her kids' dads are pretty much absentee. Right. So they all have the same experience. But with Leah, she's got one set of kids that have their dad around and the other one that doesn't. And it's just probably pretty difficult to navigate that, especially navigating Addie's feelings about that. Because I'm sure she's been asking questions for a while about Jeremy and all that. The girls even ask Corey about Addie coming over, and he was so cool in this scene. I mean, he was like, as long as everybody is okay with that, like we can talk about it. And they said she doesn't have a father figure. I don't think Corey is the most appropriate person to be that father figure with everything that ever happened. I mean, if you go back to Addie's conception and everything, like
so true. I think he gave the best advice in that direction. He's open if that's what everyone, like he said, feels like they want to do. But he told them the best thing you can do is really just let her talk about it and support her. She's always going to know that Corey's not her dad. So going to see what that's like, I do think that Leah ended up making the right decision in the end by not, she never said, like, I'm not going to allow it. But she's like, I don't think that that's the best idea to let her go over there and be exposed to such a healthy dynamic. And that's so sad because it's just going to break Addie's little heart to see that go on. It's great that Corey is welcoming, and I'm sure that they would have a great time, but it's still not what she's looking for.
I agree with Leah. It could put other ideas in Addie's head and make it more hurtful that Jeremy is not that way. I mean, honestly, I don't know why she don't get a hold of Brianna and her and Brianna don't get on a Zoom call about this kind of thing. But I think the difference with Devoyne and Stella is that he's been there for Stella since Stella was little, and Addie is like 11 or 12.
I think there's a real connection between Devoyne and Stella. They could probably cuddle and play and have a physical type of father-daughter relationship.
Yeah, like he'll hold her for a photo.
He's very comfortable around her. Whereas, I don't think Addie and Corey are ever gonna hug each other and
But it is a similar situation where neither girls really had their dad growing up, and then now they have to navigate these kids' relationship with their dad. They have the oldest
and the
ones
comparison situation. That's what's so sad.
Yeah. I thought Leah had a really good idea about putting her in counseling, and the way she talked to her about it, I thought was really age appropriate. I thought it was a great thing.
Yeah, she talked to her about it so well that Addie agreed, which is difficult to do. So.
I think Addie, though, knows she's got some issues with Jeremy, and I think she knows that
ask a child who's not going through emotional problems if they want to go to therapy. When my parents were getting divorced, they asked me if I wanted to go to therapy. They didn't say it was because of the divorce, but it's like at any age when you're struggling emotionally. So it's just a good thing when your parents like, hey, I see that. Do you want some help with that? Just like, hey, I see that you fell and broke your arm. We need to go to the hospital. It should be the same. Even
with Addie being like, oh, I want to go see what it's like at Corey's house and stuff. I think that just screams, I'm struggling with my relationship with my father. I want to see what a good relationship is like. And I think Leah did a great job of offering up the therapy, and maybe she should have talked to Jeremy about it first or put in for this first, because Jeremy apparently does not want Addie going to therapy. And I was right alongside Leah with this. Like, what are you gaining, sir, by not letting Addie go to therapy?
Stupidest thing I've ever heard. Yeah, there's no harm to it. It makes me wonder if there's more going on at Jeremy's house that he doesn't want someone else to hear. And I don't even think that's going on. But it's like, why would you not want your child to get professional help when they're going through something? And maybe Jeremy is just so disconnected from Addie that he has no idea that Addie is struggling in this way emotionally. But I feel like it's got to be obvious because Leah said that Jeremy's parents are openly calling her names in front of Addie, and that's going to make any kid feel weird.
I have so many issues with Jeremy anyways, because I mean, he's the opposite of Maci in this episode, right? Where Maci gets a job opportunity and turns it down because this is the time of her kid's life where they need her around. And Jeremy takes every opportunity he can to be away from Addie. This man doesn't even live in the same state as her. He just comes in sometimes for visits, and his parents get her every other weekend.
And then wants to go and deny her the ability to go to therapy for the problems that he caused. He's the root problem of all of these problems that Addie's going through.
I'm actually surprised that he even has to sign off on it. I think since Leah's the primary custody person, would she really need his permission?
Well,
I don't really know how that works.
She clarified in the episode that they share medical decision making, because those things are separated sometimes when people get custody agreements. Sometimes it's all in one. If you're the primary custodial parent, then you are the primary everything. But sometimes they have the primary residence. They live there primarily, but you still have to share medical and educational and decisions like that. So it sounds like that's what they have worked out. Otherwise, yes, Leah would just be able to just make that decision, which
Yeah.
it sounds like she's going to go to her family attorney now and try to make that possible so that
And
she
she
can be the
should.
one in charge of medical. And she absolutely should, because Jeremy is being irresponsible at this point as a parent. He knows that he lives out of state from his own child who's struggling with father issues about him, and he's denying her the right to go to therapy. Addie doesn't seem to be dysfunctional or having like a really emotionally terrible time, but she certainly would benefit from therapy. And I wonder, at what point could you say that that's medical neglect? I don't think right now you could, but if Addie continues to have problems and maybe gets depressed or starts to have anxiety or something, she's going to need to go to therapy at some point or go to a doctor at some point. Like, he should not have the ability to make these decisions if he's going to make them difficult.
And I know that him and Leah don't have like a great relationship, and she said as much. He's my toxic ex and whatever, even though I was like, girl, just like a couple years ago, weren't y'all teasing like a get back together type situation? If you got
This is
something,
toxic.
if you got something to say about Jeremy, say it, girl. Might as well. This is one of your last shots. You got to get that check somehow. Maybe you don't have to serve this episode if you just tell us what's going on between you and Jeremy all these years that you've been covering for him. I get covering for him for an extent. I think a lot of people do that. Not even just women, but whatever parent is the most responsible. So look at Gary and Amber and stuff like that. He's always trying to cover her too. But there comes a point where your child knows what's going on. So there's no point in covering it anymore. Addie's smart. She knows that her relationship with her dad isn't what the twins have with their dad. And she's curious, and she does need to talk to somebody. I think a therapist would be great, especially because Leah's great and all, but she's a lot sometimes. And she has a bias towards Jeremy anyways.
She does. And at this point, she's such an inspirational speaker to her kids that every time she opens her damn mouth, these girls just tune her voice out, because she could go on and on and on. It's not necessary to come from Leah, nor is it healthy to come from Leah, because she's mom and Jeremy's dad.
I think it's best to have a third party there for Addie to feel comfortable and talk about her feelings with. I'm kind of with Leah. Jeremy, what do you think Addie's going to say about you? Is there something going on at your house that you can get in trouble for or something? Because just you being not around and stuff, that's something she's going to struggle with. And you haven't been around since the divorce.
He probably just doesn't want to come to terms with the fact that he's emotionally harming his child. And that's not illegal. You can hurt your kids' feelings. You can move away. They can have feelings about that. But you should feel some emotion about that. It should make you feel something. Even if you don't do anything about it, you should start to acknowledge it must be really hard for you that I live thousands of miles away.
Or in Pennsylvania and you live in West Virginia. And I'm still going to come all the way to West Virginia to out your mom at her job. I don't know. Jeremy has lost me anyways, but I just think that this whole therapy situation, I'm like, dude, go hug a tree, like Roxanne would say. Literally, like, this man is keeping his daughter from personal growth. It's like, go hug a tree, Jeremy.
Honestly.
I hope you get a splinter when you do, because you've been gone for the last 10 years, basically. And now you want to deny people therapy? Like it's the worst thing in the world for your kid to want? That's crazy. If I was Leah, I might be a little bit petty and be like, Addie, I wanted to sign you up for therapy, but your dad said no.
Yeah, why don't you talk to your dad about it? I would just take my ass straight to the lawyer. This man has shown he's incapable of making appropriate medical decisions for his child, and therefore he should not have the ability to do that anymore.
These people are just lucky they ain't dealing with Janelle or something. She'd be petty enough to be like, oh, you want to call me a bitch in front of my child? Okay. Well, guess what? Your dad won't let you go to therapy. Crazy. And I'm such a bitch. Addie is, I guess, known for being on the funnier side. And a lot of times people who are very funny cover up a lot of
hiding things.
Yeah.
Comedian curse, which she totally has. That's totally her personality. I put away my iPad and I forgot to talk about what's coming up next.
We got to know.
We got to tell the people. So next, Ty is going to go to the daddy-daughter dance, probably with Nova, the other littler ones. Aaliyah is dating a whole boy. And so
Aaliyah.
Corey brings up the idea of birth control.
How old is she now? Like 13?
I mean, Bentley's driving, so she's probably
14,
13 or
13?
14. I
I guess better be safe than sorry.
I needed birth control at 13, 14.
Yeah.
So it's happening. This is what we've all been waiting for, is to have these conversations about these kids. And I hope to God that these teen moms prepare their children and protect their children, educate their children, and we just keep watching what we're watching now. So
Can you imagine Gary giving Leo his little Gary time condoms to birth control?
Well, they already had the birth control talk with Leah.
I know.
Leah's on it, and I just feel weird talking about these kids.
It's because we watched them all be born, so it just
I know. I feel like I'm their estranged aunt or something, but honestly, like that's how I feel.
Especially Jade, seeing that kid cry at so many screen doors, it just
I know. And now he's so big and looks like a whole man. Anyways, Mackenzie's gonna give us an update on her whole trying to conceive situation. And then Bree's mom apparently is not doing well in this rehab. So we'll see what that actually means. I'm sure we won't get very many questions answered because we're talking about Roxanne here, but we'll try.
She's having some kinds of episodes in there. I already know it.
Are you surprised?
She's telling all the other patients, go hug a tree.
Probably is. She's gonna need at least 120 days.
F you and your sister. The ultimate. Like somebody fucking took her pizza that day. Like, no, that's the ultimate.
The ultimate.
That woman. I kind of miss her.
The Amber meltdown is coming.
It's coming.
It comes every season, like clockwork.
Usually around episode 9 or 10, we get a real
nice this season, she actually has a reason to melt down. The last couple seasons, she didn't even have a reason. She still did it.
She still don't really got much for a reason. It's her own damn fault, but she loves melting down for no reason.
She loves melting down for Leah.
Remember the one time she had a complete meltdown because Gary and Christina said that she's seen your daughter twice in a summer? And I'm like, that's not even them talking crap about you. That's just a fact.
Yeah, she didn't argue the facts. She just argued about why.
Yeah, and then she's over here posting on Twitter, well, Christina's husband, she cheated on that man, and he got a restraining order against her, and blah, 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 blah. And Christina's like, that's a restraining order for my child not to film. I've been a present parent since day one. So yeah, Amber's due for another meltdown. At least this one time she's got somewhat of a reason. Yeah. But she don't need a reason.
Whether or not.
I bet Maci told her.
Probably, or Kate, or they both called her together, but somebody told her that wasn't Gary. I could almost guarantee that.
I hope it didn't happen in one of them scripted Zoom calls, but we'll see.
Maybe that's when we'll get it. We'll all pop up and be like, Amber, did you hear that? Could you imagine?
Hello, Prince.
Hello.
Well, actually say goodbye to Chick Chat because we're done.
Goodbye. All right, see you guys later. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe.
Do all the things. Say bye, Prince.
Bye-bye.